Welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Josie, and I am going to be documenting my journey in trying to pay off all of my debt in 15 months using a home equity line of credit. And today I wanted to talk to you about my experience trying to get approved for a home equity line of credit on a half duplex. My home that I own is part of a duplex. I don't own the whole thing, I just own my section. My building has 2 homes connected. Others in my neighborhood have 3 homes connected. Mine is a 2 home, but I only own my section. So my first attempt was to apply with US Bank. Researched, looked around, they had good interest rates. I thought I'd give them a try. I applied. I have a very good credit. My credit score is between, depending on which of the credit bureaus you check, I'm like 790 to 804 or something like that, give or take. And so I applied with US Bank. I felt pretty confident that I would get approved. I have a lot of equity in the house, and I wasn't asking for much. I was asking for $40,000. And so I applied, and then I waited a little bit, and nobody said anything to me. So I called the number, and they said, "Oh, sorry, we do not do HELOCs, home equity line of credits, on duplexes." And I'm like, okay, well, I wish someone would have told me that, because nobody called me, and I wasted a few days. And for me, I'm the type of person that once I decided I want to get this done, I want to start moving. I'm already envisioning what I'm going to do. And so I want to get moving. Okay, it didn't work with them. So I researched some other places, and I found Florida Credit Union. Okay, well, I applied with them online, and then I called them and I said, okay, I just applied for a home equity line of credit. It doesn't give you an option for duplex. It says townhome, maybe condo, single family, maybe even manufactured. I'm not sure. It gives a lot of range, but it does not actually say like a duplex. So I picked single family, which was the closest in my opinion. And so I specifically got on the phone with the lady, and she said, okay, yes, we do loans for duplex. Cool. Because since I had already known that with the other place, they said no right away, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to waste time and energy with Florida Credit Union if they were not going to do a loan or couldn't. Cool. So I asked that first. She said, sure, it's not a problem. Okay, we moved forward with the application. I submitted all of the paperwork that they needed, proof of insurance, my homeowners, everything that they asked for. And if you want to know what they asked for, obviously they asked for proof of income. They asked for proof of your loan and what you owe. They obviously check your credit. They want proof that your home is insured. And so I sent them all of that. And then they were going to do an appraisal, which I wasn't concerned about, again, because the value of these homes have gone ridiculously high. In my opinion, these homes are not worth that. And maybe I shouldn't say that, but I just don't believe it. I paid a really maybe better than reasonable price for my house. I got it in 2011, and I got it for $60,000. Very happy. My timing was like on point. And so now they're obviously worth a lot more. So they said, okay, the next thing we need to do is after we run your paperwork and get pre-approved, we need to do an appraisal. So I'm like, okay. So they did the appraisal, but they didn't do a like show up appraisal. They did like a drive-by appraisal because since I wasn't asking for that much. And their appraisal, it came back at $324,000, which I'm like, great. I don't want that much, but that means that I am willing to stake this whole house with that value for a $40,000 credit line. That's a no-brainer in my opinion. So, okay, cool. They were like, all right, great. Things are going good. And I'm like, oh, perfect. So this was like a 2.5 week, maybe 3 week process. And I'm just anxious to get it all done. So I get an email from somebody, the new person that's handling my case, and he's like, hey, we are sending it to underwriting. We expect that you will get a notice that you are officially approved and to close within 24 hours. And I'm like, perfect. This is going to be great. I can start moving on my journey to becoming debt-free in 15 months. So what happens? The day that I'm supposed to get the closing papers, they send me an email saying, oops, I'm sorry. There was a mistake. We do not do home equity line of credits on duplexes because they're considered an investment property. And I'm like, but I live in mine. I own mine. It is my primary residence. And they're like, sorry, so sorry. And I'm like, but wait a minute. The first question I asked was if you guys did loans for duplexes, because I had already been turned down for somebody else. And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. We'll let this person know, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, it doesn't matter. They're not going to approve me. So I just wasted 3 weeks with these people, not to count the week I had already started with the first place. So I'm frustrated. I'm like, you know what? Let me do the math and see if I can make this happen without a home equity line of credit, which the math is there. I can do what I'm going to do now with the HELOC on my own. But I wanted the HELOC. I wanted to do this. I wanted everything in one combined place, one place where I send my payments. So I tried one more time with, who is it with now? Fifth Third Bank. So I tried Fifth Third Bank. I applied, and then I called them and I asked, do you do loans for duplexes? And then he's like, I don't know. I think so. Let me check. And then he come back and said, we don't do second mortgages on duplexes. We will do a first mortgage on a duplex. And I said, perfect. That's fine, because I plan to pay off my first mortgage with this HELOC. So you guys can have first position. That's not a problem with me. Let's do that. And they're like, okay, that's cool. If you're willing to pay off the first mortgage and give us first lien position, which means they're the first person that gets paid if something happens and I default, then they would do it. Cool. So we go through the process, and they say it takes 30 to 35 days from start to close. And I'm already very impatient, but I'm like, fine. So we start the process. I give them all the same paperwork. Luckily, I had all the paperwork that I needed from the other person. Just sent it all to them, gave them all the stuff, had a lot of waiting to do. Then they did a appraisal, like the same thing, like just an estimated appraisal. I don't even know what you call it, but no one showed up. So they did that, but then they said, okay, now we're going to actually push for an official appraisal. Someone's going to come, measure, take photos. And I'm like, okay. So that pushed it all out a whole nother week. And then we had some really nice people come in and do the appraisal. And I spoke with her and she said, you know what? The issue might have been mine, that I kept saying a duplex because that's what I live in, a duplex. But I only live in half of the duplex. And she's like, you are a half duplex. You are not a duplex. And your half duplex falls more under a townhome, not a condo, because if I understand correctly, condos, you don't own the land. You just own the building. But in a townhome, you own your plot of land. And in my duplex, I do own the plot of land, my half duplex. So I might have been shooting myself in the foot by saying duplex when I really just own a half a duplex. Whatever. She explained it to me. She says, this is how it goes. And if this one doesn't get approved, then I need it to be more clear if I wanted to try again. The thing that was interesting was that the guy from the last place that told me that they wouldn't approve me, he says, what you can do is go talk to the county and see if they'll rezone or rename where you live. And I'm like, that is the most ridiculous advice. It's a whole community. They're going to change the name and how they zone my little sliver. Ridiculous. I mean, I don't even know why he suggested that, but whatever. So anyway, she did her appraisal. And it came back, and this one came back for $304,000. But you know, things are fluctuating around here, and I'm okay with that because it's still way more than what I need and way more than what I paid for. So we're looking good. I reach out to my lender. I talked to them. They said, yeah, we got the appraisal. We're moving forward for closing. And I'm like over here praying that it works out. There was a little bit of an issue. Okay, there wasn't an issue. This is what happened. They said, you are approved. We are going to have the local branch call you to schedule closing. And I'm like, okay, cool. But then I'm like, I'm going to call the branch and schedule the closing because I want to hurry up and close. So I called the branch. I scheduled. I told them what I was scheduling. And I made an appointment. I show up, and it turns out that I kind of jumped the gun. I needed to wait for them to send over the closing documents for them to call me for me to do the closing. So there was a big mess up, and my lender talked to the branch person, and they're like, who scheduled her? Why did they schedule her? We weren't ready. And I was like, oops. So they moved me to the front of the line because I was already there. So they went ahead and I came back. I said, no problem. If it's a hassle, I'll come back. So I came back like 3 or 4 hours later. That gave them time to put my closing packet together. And they gave me, I signed all the paperwork there with them. But what I noticed was it was not saying that this was going to be a first position loan. So I'm like, shit, now there's something messed up here. Maybe because they rushed, maybe because they did something. And now this is going to push the whole thing off. And when I mentioned it to the lady there, she's like, I wouldn't worry about it. But I'm like, well, that was a contingency, right? They said you can't get this if it's not first lien position, so I can't really forget about it. So this was like Friday afternoon. I got home. I sent an email to my guy, and I said, listen, sorry about the mix-up earlier today, but also nobody's saying anything about first lien position, and that was supposed to be one of the ways that I would get approved. The only way I was supposed to get approved. So is there a mess up? I don't want it to stop the process. And the thing is in Florida that you have a 3 business day right of rescission, which means you can change your mind in those 3 days. So they didn't give me my money on Friday. I have to wait. So I had to wait before I would get my money. And in those 3 days, I wanted to make sure that everything was clear so it doesn't push things off further, which also means had I not pushed for the closing on that Friday, they might have scheduled me for later the next week, maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday, and I would still have to wait a whole nother week. And I just did not have the patience for that. Let me just be honest. But anyway, it turns out that I probably was wrong by saying it was a duplex. And when they got the appraisal back, they're like, this is okay. This is not an investment property. This is somebody's home. We can do a HELOC on it. So lots of stress, lots of going around, lots of, back and forth. I started this, I think, in the beginning or end of August, right beginning of September. Now we're almost at the end of October, and it's finally happened. So if you have a duplex, let that be a lesson to you. A half duplex, let that be a lesson to you. Or if you have a townhome and you're trying for a HELOC, let that be a lesson to you. And maybe if you have just a single family home, which is just, your little home on the lot, then maybe you got some value out of this too. All right, I felt like I rambled, but hopefully there was some nuggets of information in there for you. I'm going to leave you with that for this one. And, if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so you can keep following my story. I'll be posting my weekly budget updates and my monthly where my debt is now update, so you don't want to miss those. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye for now.